pink child. The settlement was a quiet tomb of clay and steel, a sanctuary against the sun's unrelenting fury. Somewhere off the coast of what was once Great Britain, this island housed 115 survivors, refugees of a dying world, waiting out a future they could barely envision. The sun had grown hostile, its rays burning through the Earth's atmosphere, leaving the surface uninhabitable. Outside, the air shimmered with danger, and inside, we moved like shadows in our black suits and pink UV masks. Twice a day, the gates creaked open, and we shuffled into the yard for a brief reprieve, glancing at each other through mirrored visors. My room was a stark cube of clay brown walls and a single iron-grilled window. Across the corridor, another cell mirrored mine, its occupant a small figure seated on the surface, on the floor, a child, no older than 7 or 8. The pink child, we called her. She wore her UV mask even indoors, though it hung awkwardly on her small face, too big for her features. Her dark eyes, unshielded, unyielding, often stared through the narrow slit of her window at the empty world behind. She had no parents. None of us knew where she had come from or how she had ended up here. The guards said nothing, and the rest of us barely dared to ask. The pink child, like the rest of us, had been absorbed into the silent machinery of survival, her origins swallowed by the collective hush of the settlement. One day, as I returned from my morning 15-minute walk outside, I saw her seated in a usual spot. She wasn't alone. A boy, Muni, one of the older children, sat beside her. They were speaking in low whispers, their voices blending with the faint hum of the air filtration system. I hesitated in the corridor, straining to catch fragments of their conversation. Muni, the pink child, was saying, her voice lit but edged with something brittle. What happens if the sun never stops? What if it gets worse? Muni shifted uncomfortably. It won't, he said, though his tone betrayed his own uncertainty. They'll fix it. The scientists, they'll make it better. But how do you know? She pressed, her eyes narrowing. What if there are no scientists left? What if it's just us? Muni didn't answer. The weight of her words hung in the air, too heavy for him to lift. I cleared my throat, stepping closer. What are you two talking about? The pink child glanced up at me, her gaze sharp and unflinching. Why, we are still here, she said simply. I sat down beside them, folding my legs under me. That's a big question for someone your age, I said, trying to sound light-hearted. She tilted her head and asked, Is it? You think about it, don't you? I hesitated. Caught off guard, I said, I suppose I do. Admittedly. Muni sighed, leaning back against the wall. It's not like we have much else to think about, he muttered. The pink child's gaze returned to the window. Sometimes I think about my parents, she said quietly. I don't remember what they look like. Just bits of things. A voice, a smell. I try to put them together in my head, but it doesn't work. Her words hit me like a punch to the chest. I thought of the families we had all lost, the connections severed by the chaos of a world falling apart. For a child to carry that weight alone felt unbearably cruel. "What do you do when you can't remember?" I asked softly. She shrugged. "I make things up. I pretend they're still out there somewhere. Maybe on another island. Maybe they're waiting for me, just like I'm waiting for them." Muni leaned forward, his elbows resting on his knees. "Do you think they are really out there?" he asked, his voice tinged with hope and fear. The pink child was silent for a long moment. Then she shook her head. "No, but it's nice to pretend." Her words stayed with me long after the conversation ended. That night, lying in my cot, I thought about her and the fragile hope she clung to, a hope that flickered like a candle in the oppressive darkness of our world. It wasn't fair for someone so young to carry such heavy thoughts, to grow up in a world where dreams were luxuries and survival was the only certainty. The next morning, I saw her again, standing by her window. Her eyes were fixed on the sky as always, searching for something that wasn't there. "Do you ever think about what comes next?" I asked her, breaking the silence. She turned to me, her expression unreadable behind a mask. "No," she said, "I think about what's gone. It's easier that way." I didn't know what to say to that, so I said nothing, leaving her to her thoughts and her window. The only connection she had to a world that had already forgotten her. And so we continued, living, surviving, existing in that world. The sun rose and fell. The guards patrolled and the gates opened and shut. The pink child watched the world through her narrow window, her hope flickering like a dying flame. And I wondered how long it would be before that flame was extinguished, leaving us all in the dark.